Hi, welcome to this tutorial on creating a new folio and managing folios. Now every reservation has at least one folio. That folio is created automatically when the reservation is built. That first folio will either be made out in the name of the agent or, in the case of a direct booking, the actual client. This folio number 1 is normally only made up out of accommodation. The need for different folios would normally arise when you have a large party and each of the guests wants their separate accounts, or perhaps a client has selected an additional activity once the initial booking has been made and wants to pay for that separately. Should you be aware that different accounts would be required by different guests on one booking, then the first step is to gather all their names. And let's go and enter them into the system. Should you be aware of multiple accounts being required at the time of creating the booking, you can do this in step 3 under guest details. Enter the names of the guests that will be requiring separate accounts. Enter here where indicated now under guest details. It's important to remember that when you're entering guest details, always do that from within a reservation for that particular guest. Generally though, the entering of guest names would occur once the guests arrive at the property, and this is done through the rooming calendar. Selecting the client who has checked in and adding guests. Here we will have a similar field as what appears on a reservation to enter the guest names. By entering guest names into the system, it facilitates the process of creating different folios for those guests. Let's have a look at this. In this reservation under extras, we want to add an extra, and we'll simply just fast forward to select a particular extra, and here we can see invoice 2, and this is defaulted to the client because it's a direct booking. But let's have a look. Create a new folio or search for somebody else. Having entered the names of the guests, in this case we've created cash folios and just test folio, we can now create this folio for this particular extra or additional cost for that person selected now. Having created these folios to house the different expenses, you might discover an error has occurred. This can be speedily rectified simply by coming to the reservation, clicking on Financials, Folio Invoices, and to the right, Manage Folios. Now we see the existing folios and the expenses under that. We can now choose a particular expense and move it to a different folio that should have been charged in the first place. Let's have a look at this. The balloon ride needs to go to folio 4. So we selected the balloon ride in 2, and we now on the drop down selecting folio 4. Click on folio 4 and save the changes. In folio 4 currently we only had one expense. Now we have 2, having moved the additional expense incorrectly charged. Should you need to create a new folio, also proceed to Financials in the reservation, Folio Invoice, and as indicated now click on Create Folio. Here the expenses have been listed on the reservation for which we can create different folios now. So select Balloon Ride, for example. There we have now the available contacts or guests to be charged for this particular expense. Balloon Ride, and we'll create a new folio. And there we have a new folio.